budget work right now. And what I'd like for us to do is take the deal you got on Friday, and let's start and go through it. And we'll try to point out to you some of the changes and the things that are in that to be sure we're all looking at the same thing. Part of it, if you go with the first page, you should be looking at the one that says budget cover page, lists the tax rates.
Well, Judge, I think it's worth noting, just because we just don't see this very often, is that the decrease in the proposed tax for 2021, I think, shows really good work in being, very, very diligent about, trying to keep this thing in line under the circumstances. So let's don't let that go unmentioned, that
No.
this is a tax decrease from a year ago, and I think under the circumstances, that's something that we really need to point out. There was a lot of work done to get us there.
The second page.
On the first page,
Yes, sir.
no new revenue tax rate. Our tax rate now is .634.
No, you're looking at it
6.7.
wrong.
No new revenue tax rate. Down here, guys.
That was last year's no new revenue tax rate.
That's what
But
I'm,
we raised taxes last year.
So look at the one above it, Lee.
Property tax rate.
That's what we are today, .6718.
okay, and we're proposed, I just threw me off because it says proposed for no new revenue tax rate, proposed is .642.
That, you're correct.
That's
That is true statement there for this coming year.
But last year it was .634?
Well, we didn't utilize
adopt
that.
it.
Didn't utilize, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Didn't utilize it.
Yeah, that was just for the comparison,
Yeah.
what that's there for. It's not that we adopted it.
Okay, but the tax rate, we're talking about 6.4 or 6.5? And 6.5 would be an increase.
Well, it's,
There's an increase because of
New,
the tax rate that we set last year was above the effective rate, so
Okay, but
it's not a tax increase compared to a year ago because we were at 6.7, but it is more than the no new revenue tax rate. Is that correct?
that's right.
Right. That's the way I read it.
okay, that's what I'm reading, and I don't think that's, we have to put that notice out.
No, sir.
So we can't do that.
Well, if you read the top,
That's the proposed rate, and that's higher than the no new revenue tax rate, and that's what this budget was committed to. That's what our philosophy has been since this COVID thing started, and we have not met the requirements to have above that rate, other than what we will have for the debt rate.
well, read the opening statement. This budget will raise less revenue from property taxes than last year's budget by an amount of $185,000, which is a 0.39% decrease from last year's budget. And then you get down here,
Well, it is less
it
than,
is
It's
less.
less than, but it,
but it's not what the no new revenue rate is.
are you saying, Willie, that 65.6532 and .6718 raise the same money? That's where that rate comes from, right?
No, I don't think so, Jeff.
Well, what I'm saying
So
is,
many,
if you took last year's roll and multiplied it by .67, you come up with, say, 40 million. And you take .6532 and now multiply it by our new rolls, you come up with same money. 40 million. See what I'm saying?
No, because it says no new revenue.
No, I'm talking about the property tax rate above it. That,
Okay, but what you're saying is the no new revenue. What you're saying would generate no new revenue. It'd be the same. and that would be at .642.
Well, you're right, yeah.
Yeah. It's not an increase in taxes, but it is above the no new revenue.
Okay, but that is not, I'm telling you,
But now, Judge, how does it take into account for your addition of new property?
well, that's additional revenue.
Do you wash it out with no new?
Well, it did. You're still getting that gain in value. You're gonna get about 300,000 more than you would because of the additional new tax base value. But to raise the same money as you did last year on your taxes, then the rate goes to 642,147. That's the no new revenue tax rate. And then below that, it breaks it into the M and O.
Well, what I'm saying though, Judge, is,
Some debt.
you know, there's two kinds of value, brand spanking new
Yes,
and increased.
yes.
Do we wash our brand spanking new appraisals out of the water if we go to no new revenue and we lose that, where that's a caveat in the rule that allows us to take the brand new commercial?
I think what we do is we take the new appraisal, period, and use the whole number as a whole.
Where's our expert? Willie?
Because
We're into definitions here, I think.
The no new revenue is the same as the old effective rate. And then new property value is a little bump you get on.
well, but Judge, the old effective rate didn't take into account brand new values like
Yeah, it
built
did.
homes.
Same way, same way.
I thought it was exempt from that equation. You got to add it on top.
You do, and the same here.
Well, but that's my question. Under no new, do you take it into account and wash it out of there? Because you can't say you're getting no more new tax revenue and still add on some brand new homes that showed up on your equation.
The truth in taxation, should have put this one. .652412. So
6.5.
Now, which one, Willie, is that? The no new revenue M and O
right.
should really be
No,
what?
no, not M and O. It's the first one,
The no new tax rate?
the no new revenue, which what he refers to as effective. And it's got, I guess I used the wrong one.
What should it be?
652412.
52412.
So instead of 6.4, it's supposed to be 6.5.
Yes, sir.
But we're still above it.
Yeah, it's still above.
300ths of a cent.
Well, you're above it because there's more debt than this year. You tax for more debt.
Okay, but I thought we did all that refinancing to lower that payment.
But down at the voter approval tax rate, in other words, that's the one that forces an election.
But here's the thing,
That would be the effective rate, Barry, the old effective rate.
Well, look at it, it's 56.
I've got it on the notice to vote on tax rate. The proposed rate is .653249, no revenue tax rate. It's .683300,
6.8?
right?
That's with the debt rate. No, I'm sorry.
And the voter approval tax rate, 0.673701.
See, none of those numbers match these numbers on this paper.
Yeah, because these include a 3.5% raise, which you're allowed, so
Okay.
Well, that, he just posted it for safety's sake, like we've always done,
Has
right?
that been posted yet? No.
But he calculated it in the event
Okay.
you stump your toe.
But we have not given the notice to do that.
Well, but his notice
you
would
have to
serve that.
vote on the proposed rate.
Before you post it,
You have to vote that you're gonna post that rate. They just added to the, I'll call it BS factor.
well, yeah, who in the world can keep up with any of it?
Well,
The layperson out there paying taxes sure can.
no, there has been nothing about the truth in taxation that really explains the truth. But, okay. Gave you all some materials. Okay, the effective rate is equal to the no new revenue tax rate. The effective maintenance and operating is no new revenue maintenance and operation tax, and the old rollback tax rate is the voter approved tax rate. That's the 3.5%.
Oh, okay. Okay. So the voter approval is the rollback rate.
Yeah.
But that can't be right unless it's missing road and bridge and debt service.
No, it's missing the debt service,
Okay.
which makes it 0.632912.
All right, so this piece of paper right here, we can throw this in the trash, because it's not telling us what we need to do.
Well, but Willie, that can't be right. The rollback rate couldn't be 0.63 and the no new revenue rate be 0.65.
Well, you take the no new revenue tax rate, multiply it by 3.5, or 103.5, then that would give you the rollback rate, actually probably be 103.
Right, but it'll be higher. My point is it'll be higher.
It has to be higher, so
Yeah.
that's it, it's gotta be higher.
Yeah.
Now, that's on M&O. INS is separate of that. And a portion of the road and bridge tax is also INS right now. But we were not gonna raise either of those rates above the, in our interest in sinking fund.
Well, we have to,
We have to make it pay for itself.
yeah, it has to carry itself
Yeah.
this time because we used up our, piggy bank there.
Well, sir, I'm glad I asked a couple of questions, because we were fixing to just move right along.
No more.
So,
Calculations again, all right.
Well, we can redo that
Yeah.
number. It's not really paramount to us right this second.
well, we can't vote on
We don't
numbers.
No, we're
anything
not going
today.
to. We
Okay.
just look at the numbers.
Okay. The next sheet says we're not spending any money to go down the lobby.
Does that include our commissioners' conferences?
No.
No.
No, those are conferences.
Okay.
It's when you go down there for the sole purpose, go in and talk to
Lobby.
the legislature and try to inform them.
Index.
Okay. In the verbiage,
Yeah, I need your notes for that, because I didn't get over.
Okay, I think I gave you the, okay, on page double I, up at D, out-of-county travel. It says, note, all optional travel, conferences and schools must be approved in advance by Commissioners Court while under the COVID-19 orders.
Okay, where's this note?
It's,
I have to add
it's,
it.
she has to add that.
Oh, add.
Oh,
I didn't give her that when I went through and scratched up the old one.
Under the COVID-19 orders, you
Yes.
said? Okay.
Yeah, as long as we're under a disaster order for COVID-19. You know, we voted that in earlier this year,
Got it.
but it's not meant, you know, transport prisoners, those kind of things, all that. Schools. Schools, yes. Unless somebody wants to travel on their own.
True.
Okay, flip on over to page Roman numeral 4. I just had Nancy add up the top, scratch out. It's on the uniform allowance of $500 per designated person will be noted in each budget. It will be paid at 24 cents per hour plus an average of 16 hours of overtime per pay period, and will make an employee's less payroll expenses, which is income tax, Social Security, and retirement. But generally speaking, most of our people, you know, that's, they're getting more than 16 years annually of overtime.
16 hours.
Yeah, total, yeah, with your 40 hours a week plus 16 hours, that gives you $500. But I think there,
Yeah.
because there've been a lot of that 36 cents an hour, you know. Okay. Okay, next page is page number 1, transfers.
And my amount of 112,500 there for road and bridge number 3 is 12,500, and that's to offset that truck. Okay, that's good. I'm glad that's taken care of.
But we're showing a projection in precincts 2 and 4 of going negative for this year. But Willie, do they have enough in fund balance that will be recouped out of their fund balance and then have money for next year, or?
It could be that, you know, there's always, I guess, shouldn't say always, but usually some fallout from the budget, so it's possible that
Curtis,
they
you
could
looked
be.
at that number, right? Because you were
Close to
telling.
balance
Yeah,
Yeah.
or slightly negative, but
well,
if they're negative, it'll be taken care of within the fund, but we still have to face there's deficit within the precincts 2 and 4 in making the revenue match with the projected expenditures, so. And as we discussed a little on Friday, you know, you have some options on looking at road mileage and splitting the special road tax based on road mileage, but that's,
Well,
Nancy,
is that
did you-
1,300,000, that's our budget. I'm probably a couple pages ahead of you there.
okay, let's don't do that.
Well, but
Okay,
we're
go
talking
ahead.
about it right now. That's the
Okay.
deal. We probably should have waited to talk about this till we got there, because I'm looking at the numbers. And that 130,354,000 that is the budget, that's the 21 budget, and those are all similar.
Yeah,
Is that the actual budget that we turned in?
What page?
Yeah, for.
Well, I'm over
for
on
Road and
5.
Bridge.
Yeah, for Road and Bridge.
Yeah, because the total is about 6.5 million, or,
No, it's, yeah, it's,
Yeah.
well, it's kind of, it's basically 1.3 for each precinct, and I was wondering why those were all close to being the same.
well,
Because
I
then
didn't
you
think
look
they
at-
were so close, Barry, when I looked at them broken out.
But when you look at the 2020 budget, like, precinct 1 was 835,000, precinct 2 was 1,700,000, so twice.
Because this year, I split the special road and bridge tax based on need, not evenly among the precincts.
On this year or last year?
This year,
Oh, no, you're talking about 20.
20.
20,
Yes,
okay,
this
yeah,
is
see,
20,
yeah.
just in case.
I understand, but I'm,
So 1 and 3 got shorted on
okay,
road and bridge tax.
yeah, but in this 21, you're splitting them the same.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what we had talked
That's
about
what
doing,
they-
that's right. But boy, there's a lot of disparity between these budgets there, between 835,000 and 1.7 million from last year. Well, in threes was, see, mine was 1,010,000, so, okay, that was I'd seen that, I'm sorry, Judge, I didn't mean to
No,
jump
you're
ahead,
looking
but,
Yeah, 20 budget, yeah.
okay.
All right, so we go back to page 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
This is just transfers.
yeah, but it has to come from somewhere. It has to be real money. We're not the federal government.
We're going to transfer from where to where? What do we do
Well, we
last year?
transfer from your fund balance, if you have one. And there's a sheet that says what your balance is, it's a little farther. Let me see.
Page 9,
Page 9, thank you, Curtis.
and usually when you use 250 estimated at the end of 2020. Precinct 4 showing negative 200 estimated.
See, and I don't understand that, because I didn't go over on my budget last year, on my ceiling oil, on the
Well,
rod.
it's this
on
year
my-
he's
But
talking.
you budgeted more than what your income was. You budgeted it, but it was more than what,
Well, the budget's approved, then why wouldn't the funds be allocated to their budget once you approve the budget?
well, they are. That's why
Well,
you're
then
going
I shouldn't be in a negative.
no,
If the budget was funded, I should have not even dipped into my reserves.
well, because you were only funded from the deal at 1.3 and you spent 1.7, so there was
If the
funds.
budget was 1.7,
Here's the
then you
thing.
fund the budget. You tax the people for the budget.
No,
The
Yes, you do.
auditor
no,
for
we
the
don't.
2019 camper has your fund balance in negative, I think it's 94,000, say 100,000 negative fund balance for starting 2020.
So how does that happen?
We don't fund for the
Well-
budget. I mean, we don't tax for the budget. We never have we, Judge?
Are you crazy?
No.
No, we don't tax.
We don't, we never
I
have.
don't know,
Never
part
have.
of it,
The full budget, I understand.
part of it may be the slowdown on allocation of revenue to the proper place starting in July of 2019, but
Oh,
I have never
because we have.
overspent what I budgeted for.
Well, and Curtis, looking at mine will come out at a wash too. I mean, we'll be the same.
But
Wait,
part
what,
of the
really?
funding for your approved budget came out of reserves. Because we only transferred, the road and bridge tax only transferred you, what, 1.3 or something, and your budget was 1.7, so the difference has gotta come from reserve.
Not my fund balance.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
where it
that's
comes
exactly
down.
where it comes from.
And what happens, and this isn't your fault, this is just, okay, 2019 is going on for 4 months after the budget's approved. Things can look real good there, but if revenue doesn't come in and meet the projections, then you could have end in a negative amount. It's what did you have then in the fund balance that wasn't available in your budget that could make up that deficit, and then you have it if you need it for the next year. So it's not anything you did wrong.
So we're not doing any good to increase all you're doing when you increase your budget is doing away with your fund balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
And
can't
when you
add
have
to
no
your fund balance.
if you approve the budget, then it's paid for by the general fund.
No, it's not.
Well, it's
Where's
not-
it paid for by?
It's not.
It's
It
an
goes
approved budget,
negative.
somebody's gotta pay for it.
Well, what I've been trying to say,
As I said, Lee, pardon me, Wood.
go ahead, you're gonna say the same thing.
As I said, road and bridge is in surplus overall. It's within the precincts that the discrepancy falls. You know, you've got enough money to pay your bills,
Okay,
but in reality, 1 and 3 are paying for 2. You know, overall, road and bridge overall. The fund is in surplus.
But the
You
only
have
way
fund
to,
balance.
the only way to, what you would typically think about, so you set a $1.7 million budget and you spend 1.5 and you'd bank 200. That's not what happened. In the general fund budget, that is what happens. We fund for $1.7 million, we only spend $1.5 million, we put 200 in our pocket. The opposite's occurring with road and bridge.
No, you don't fund. We count on that fallout. We transfer money into 409. That's not tax money, it's from fund balances. Our budget, we make up with fund balances because if we taxed, the guy that ran against you kept saying, we need to have a balanced budget, we
Yeah,
need to tax. Well, you'd have raised taxes by about 20 cents. You wouldn't have built a jail because it would have been out of tax money if, you know, his thoughts
Yeah.
would prevail.
We would automatically go to the limit
Yeah.
if we did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our experience shows us what we're doing has worked
Yeah.
because we don't get all the calls, but we have to plan the money. It's kind of like that $5 million we put in the emergency fund. And you say, well, where'd you come up with that idea? I'm gonna tell you right now, it's a swag. Because none of us know what's gonna happen in 2021 revenue. But if we don't transfer that money available now, it doesn't matter if we have it in the bank, then you've gotta go through a declaring emergency, public notice, hearings, and get that money. We're doing it up ahead. Now, if we happen to go worse than 5 million, we got a big problem.
Well, let me put it this way, and maybe we can understand it better. That 5 million right now is in a CD,
Yes, sir.
in your personal bill. We're moving it to a savings account,
Kind of.
which makes it more liquid. In other words, you can draw on it. You don't want to, but you can.
Yeah, but
But
it
we're
is.
not moving it to our checking account.
Exactly.
So with an act of, I assume the court, such as the fund that we always have to approve, we'll move it from our savings account into our checking account.
Yes,
That's
sir.
the way I explain
That's
it.
exactly.
But if it's over there in a CD, you're not gonna cash that CD in early and take a penalty. That's an emergency action there, and we don't wanna have to do that. So you're just putting it on hold over here in the savings
Put it on
account.
hold.
But
okay, let's just get down to the nut cutting. If I have a $250,000 deficit because I don't have any fund reserves, who covers the $250,000?
Well, that's gonna be
1
transferred.
and 3,
Yeah.
basically. Because overall, the road and bridge has money.
But we've got to change.
Yeah. Well, the problem that
Well-
I've got along this same line, Lee, I mean, none of us mind helping one another out, we always do, and that's one of the good things about this court, because there are some courts around it that don't function that way.
Yeah.
But here's where I get involved. If I continue to pull down my fund balance, I like to keep a year's operating expenses in my fund balance in case of emergency. Now, some people might think that's excessive, that's just the way I've always kind of been.
We're
So-
supposed to keep that in the general fund.
So if we keep that, no,
No, road and bridge and general fund are two completely
Yeah,
separate.
two
Well, they are now.
They
We've
they are
always-
constitutionally separate. Road and bridge gets to carry over money at the end of the year. General fund, people do not. No, they're definitely defined funds.
But the only way to build revenue is to budget
Less.
expend less than what you budget of true revenue flowing in the door. So if you've got actual 800,000 or $1 million flowing in from revenue and fines and fees and such, and you only spend 800, you're banking 200. But if you budget $1.2 million and you're only getting $1 million, that you're not getting that extra 200,000 set back anywhere. It's
Who covers
just,
it?
if you spend it all,
Well, the
it's
other-
coming out of the piggy bank.
the rest of the
Of road and
precincts cover
bridge.
it.
Say all the precincts have spent all their reserves. And we spend more
We'd have to
money.
transfer it from general
From where?
fund. From
General
general
fund.
fund.
That's the
In
bottom line.
in an emergency move, I believe, isn't it, Judge? Anytime you go to,
Well, you can always, you can budget money out of the general fund.
right,
Okay, but we went back and took the road and bridge optional tax back into the formula so that
we took it out of the
you
general
could
fund.
separate it
Right.
and have your funds over here and not be taking up 4 cents in the general fund. Now, they're all part of the same 3.5% we're limited to.
Yeah.
The
Doesn't
only
give
thing
us-
that's not subject to 3.5% is the interest in sinking fund.
Bottom line is, we're not taking in enough money to support all the things we're doing.
Yeah, and it's not.
And we're whittling on-
What we're doing is not good and right.
No, it
things.
is
We just
good.
can't afford the pace we're doing it at.
That's it. See, it's just like this year. I needed 2 more loads of oil and didn't have them in my budget, and we shut off. We didn't do
Well,
it.
last week you needed 3 more loads.
Well, maybe it was 3, but Jerry knows more about that than I do. But anyway, it was more than 1, Judge, I'll
Yeah,
say.
okay, I agree
But my
with that.
point is that we really wanted to do that and needed to do it, but you quit.
You can't.
You can't. It's not in the budget. I came and looked at my list, and Curtis agreed with me. Said, that's it, boys. Clean her up.
But this brings impetus to what we've talked about doing and never done, is sit down, as I said last week, with your foreman and sit here and make a better plan, as Willie suggested, 4 years. I'd love to see just 1 year,
Yeah.
work out the kinks in it, then go to 2 and 3. 4 years down the road, that's, sounds great, but I don't think that's practical. I think things change too much.
Too much change.
But, and we're looking at some good things coming in. 2 major tax, things that will raise the tax base. The trouble is, to get them in here, we give them abatement.
That's right.
So it's a while before you see those wonderful things. So,
But you're building for the future, and that's sure better than not having it.
yeah,
That's the key.
but I think with that hemp factory, with the things that will come in associated with it, which we'll probably have to offer some sort of abatement, but I don't think we're gonna have to offer as much. We've got some nice bait on the hook now that's gonna bring them in, and they need to be near it. They're not gonna command as much as the other, so.
How do you take money from 1 and 3 to pay debt of 2 and 4 without their permission?
Well, it's in the budget, and they voted for it.
So I guess we gave permission. Well, I mean, it gets back to this, Lee, you and I have had this discussion. I mean, what do we really need a year to run these precincts to do it the way we want to do it?
We can't afford it.
No, I
Can't
know.
afford to do what we need to do.
Yeah, $2.5 million a precinct probably to go and do,
Just for a few years.
yeah.
And
But
then
I mean-
back way off.
I don't know,
But we don't
There is
have
a-
it, so.
there's a a maintenance scenario of funds needed just to make the doors open. And before long, you just live in that box.
You gotta maintain the roads.
Not if there's no money. All you're doing is filling up the pickups and putting tires on them when the tires go out. You're making payroll every week.
All of that is not needed if you're not working on the roads. You can just get rid of it.
Well, that's the point I'm making. You either bring in the revenue to support what you need to do to fix up the roads, or all you do is pay for housekeeping. You
Well,
follow me?
Pay for housekeeping or for an empty building. Just turn the lights off and go home.
Well, you gotta have your emergency stuff. I mean, when the tree blows down across the road, the deputies call us and we go move it.
We just tell them, hey, put your chainsaw in the trunk of your car, because we don't have any precinct people anymore. You see Will out there on that chainsaw?
I had a guy, but I mean, that's our job and that's the deputy's job. They see something that's a traffic hazard, they call us and we go take care of it. I mean, that's what makes the system work. And
If we don't change, then you can't expect the outcome to change.
well, Judge, how do
We can change it right here.
Well, I mean, what you
Yeah.
change is you start doing less, so, because you have less money, because the cost of things aren't going down.
No,
So
they're
you,
not.
you have to do less in order to survive. And
Or we move some of that fallout over into the
Precincts from the whole county and try to maintain our roads.
fallout's getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah, it's shorter and shorter,
And this will be the telltale of the fallouts, because you're right, in the past, there could have been significant fallouts if we didn't spend that portion of revenue that was maintaining the budget. We're paying for some of it out of the piggy bank, see, and we got to forego that. We didn't meet our expenditures on the revenue side, so we had some retainage there. But now, that's dropped from what could have been an 8% increase in revenue to no more than 3.5 ever, but like this year, we're taking 0. So, but we know the cost, just like your health insurance, went up what, 4%?
Yeah, we celebrated it 40%.
We did.
That's an increase
But
that
it's an
is
increase.
eroding your revenue because you took in 0 new revenue, but you just added about a $300,000 to $400,000 expense in additional insurance, that you have no money to cover that for.
And Lee, I'm a realist, and I'm not like these presidential candidates, you're not ever gonna give any credit to the guy that come before you or the guy that comes after you, but my predecessor built that fund balance because he collected from FEMA one year, nearly an entire year's operating deal, and I give him credit for that.
and
But
luckily the statute of
we-
limitations
yeah.
has run out.
But we've maintained it. We've not spent it, and so I'll take credit for that.
Right, yeah.
Because we could have very easily done, but that's where that came from, that's why it's there. I full well admit that. I mean, isn't that true, Willie? I mean, that's what we're talking about, but we maintained it.
Pat told me she put $250,000 in Precinct 5 for the truck route program in Burke Burnett. And that has gone away. Can that money be returned to Precinct 2?
Well, if it went away by vote, including the precinct 2 commissioner.
The project went away.
The project went away,
And the money that we put over there in Precinct 5 for the project,
but I think.
we'd like to have it back.
Well, I think you'd have to go back and check and see what other things were spent by probably precinct 2 that called on that money. Because, when she set it aside and it didn't look like a go, that it was almost like, well, I put that 250,000 over there, but I'm gonna spend 50 today. Next time we need, well, I put that 250 over there, I didn't subtract that 50 I took out.
I don't recall spending any of it.
Okay, I can't pinpoint that for you, but.
I suspect that some of that happened, but I don't know to what extent.
Probably without me being aware of it.
Well, probably so, yeah, probably so.
Okay. Let's move over to page 4 unless somebody's got something else between here and there.
If we want to GoFundMe account for precinct 2,
So
might work.
it's not 15 million. Oh, you do. 25?
But we're talking about some things here, Judge, we need to be full aware of, and we need to do some continued work.
I'll tell you,
I mean, we
now-
really do, a better understanding.
When we meet Friday afternoon, y'all need to have some ideas. If not, I'm gonna figure out my solution and put it in there so I can file a budget.
Can we get a preview of that?
Well, you have a chance to do that among yourselves,
Okay.
but
Well, I guess, I mean, I'm curious, where you actually, you got anything specific, or?
Could we move a penny from one over to Bridge and Road and Bridge?
no,
No?
yeah, you can.
That's what I'm asking.
Then we're gonna be short on the other.
The general fund right now, there are demands, we're increasing the demands because they happen, we're adding 4% for health insurance. We kept in there the sheriff's deal on the jail, how those steps go. Will has done a job of rearranging that, so that's not gonna be as big an increase, I think, as we originally thought. And that's the only place we're doing that. That's a slight raise, but I think given the situation we have with jailers, that's probably a necessary thing. But it's just like he's asked for 2 additional people for security. We don't have the money to add in there. Sheriff has resources, he's gonna have to rearrange his resources. And we don't know exactly how this is gonna work out for next year with everything out there. We know there won't be as many law enforcement people here. But, you know, we're gonna have to measure that and see how we can make that work. But I don't see any other way to predict 21 than what we're doing. And what I'm still worried about is 22. 22 could be worse than we think 21's going to be.
Judge, I think the one idea that was tossed out that maybe we need to really spend some time looking at, we probably do need to look at this road mileage deal. I think that might be a first step. I
Yeah.
don't know
Nancy,
exactly
did you finish that list?
how it plays out, but that would be
Send an
one
email
thing
to Mike B.
that'd be a place to start anyway.
Yeah.
About
But the other place to
roads
start
on
might
East
be-
Street.
Questioned roads.
Is
And I haven't
look
heard
at
from
and
him,
simply
but
divide the county
I
like
went through
this.
this
Take the
Debbie
roads
gave me,
in the
right?
proximity of your maintenance
Yeah.
volume.
And I looked at all those, I just
And
couldn't
of course,
find those
this may be
roads.
premature because if we can continue the census, we're gonna redo all this in a year anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but-
we can leave, if we decide to split the roads, like Judge said,
Mike can tell
you got 100, you got 100, you got 100, and you got 100. That's it. You take care of that. No matter what the census does, we can still stick to that.
we could, yeah,
Yeah.
we've got that option.
Because you throw in a real left field action when you try to balance population and road miles.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah, it-
We did
absolutely.
away with that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And the thought then was, okay, we'll just divide the roads up. Well, then, no. The commissioner said, well, I don't want somebody else being responsible for the roads I'm supposed to do. Okay, if you don't change, I think I said this before, but I want to say it 5 times today, you can't expect the outcome to be different.
Well, I think a hybrid version might be to basically have your precinct with your roads, but then that stuff in the middle is where you adjust and,
Yeah.
and we do a little of that
Nancy, what
now.
do you do?
Yeah.
We're doing some of that now,
keeping
but I
your
mean, we
hands
could do
busy.
probably more.
Is that weather you're looking at?
No, it's.
Oh.
It's, yeah, but I think that's a place to start. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Basically keep your precinct, but kind of in the middle, shift some things around to balance the load, and I think we could do that. And we can, if Lee's guys are out and I've got a pothole where one of my roads connects on to 369, I'll fix it. And we do the same thing. I mean, we're already doing some of that. I mean, we just don't just drive by and leave it. So, you know, we can do better, work in that direction, but.
Okay, on page 4, top of the page, permanent improvement fund. This one says recapitulation of Wichita County budget 2021. constitutional and statutory tax and fee funds. Okay. We lowered the tax going into permanent improvement fund down to 1 cent, which is gonna bring in $730,000. The other income, the $110,000, Willie, where does that come out of the fund balance that's in permanent improvement now?
No, that's on down, Judge. Yeah. From operating reserve.
That's the rent for Sprague, the rent for Vernon.
Vernon College, that's it, I knew that. Okay. Okay. So then it shows we're gonna have 4 million. It's 4 million because I've had 3 million and 4 million.
Well, 3 million was what I put in first, but I upped it to 4 million because of trying to make sure that we could get the elevator project done, plus
Well, you got 2 elevator projects
the moves within the courthouse.
and the moves. No, I think 4 million is probably, but I just want to be sure we're
And are we including,
annexed.
annex?
Yes, sir.
So we got basically 3 major projects that pretty well accounts for that 4 million, does it not?
And we should have some fallout from this $4 million Texoma loan, because we're not gonna spend it all on retiring those lease purchases. So I think the court said that the rest of it would go into the permanent improvement. So there may be some more unanticipated revenue for this. Put up some fund balance there.
Mark, while
You haven't missed much, but thank you. I appreciate it.
While you were gone, we spent all your money.
In a non-record vote, though.
Yeah, not
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can go now.
Okay, so
You're
4
done.
million is gonna be the figure. Okay,
Page 4.
page 4.
Close this and get out of your way.
Okay, then,
Willie, walk me through the road and bridge, where does that money come from that equates to 6 million? Taxes I see, that's the road and bridge tax. And why do we not have to declare road and bridge tax on that first inside page of this budget? It shows as a part of M&O, but shouldn't it be broken out to be its own category?
Well, it is, it's calculated separately, but it's added together to give the total.
So-
it counts as part of the M&O rate, but it could be separated to do that.
So the 2.8 million comes from the road and bridge tax, right?
Right.
And then the 2.4 comes from the fines and fees?
Fines, fees,
That's
auto
your-
registration.
Your vehicle registration and the special road and bridge fee, the $10 fee.
And where, the transfer in, that 412.5 is from
That
all
goes-
precincts?
That goes to precinct 5, that's for precinct 5, transfer it in.
But it's,
Who determines that number?
I did.
Okay,
but do we,
calculation of some sort.
it's not already extracted from, I mean, I guess what I'm saying, the 412,
Comes from where?
well, it comes from us all giving 100
Comes
thou
from each
piece.
precinct.
Bury 112 and each 100.
Got it.
And
I
this
saw
year,
that, yeah,
Barry was paying for that truck that,
yeah.
But that fine fee, vehicle registration, Tommy told us that they do about 140,000 a year. Now, not all those vehicles pay the $10 road and bridge tax. The farm exempt, I don't believe do. So,
Oh, farm tags on your pickup,
yeah.
don't pay
and
it.
the 241, Willie, from operating reserves, what is that? Under road and bridge tax.
Probably your coming from your end of year fund balances.
Where are you looking, the
on road and bridge special tax, it says from operating reserves, 241,000. It's leftover,
Is it on that, on page 4?
it's on
Yep,
page
sure
4.
is.
Right,
Oh,
right on
over
the
here.
end.
I was down at the bottom of the page. Okay.
Yeah, that's the amount you need to balance. So, right now, road and bridge doesn't balance on revenue. But
Well, then,
I said,
and,
you have, the money's there, but
well, Lee, what was your
some way or
budget?
the other, I'll make it balance, you know, pencil engineer it, whatever.
Well, what was yours, Lee? How much was your budget for 2021?
$87, wasn't it?
No,
Oh, that
Because,
was 19.
1.3 million, I believe.
It's more than that.
yeah,
Just
so
fine,
last
it was
year,
written here, just-
1.7.
Yeah.
Yeah. Precinct 2, 1,877,758.
Well, Lee, you need to drop that, you need to cut that 240 out of there.
So how does it work with the transfers in? You're transferring in 412,000 from, but you're transferring in from the individual precincts to 5.
Yeah.
So they're actually transferred out from those individual precincts.
Yeah, it's part of the expenditure.
Is that not a wash on that?
It is a wash, but it's budgeted as a transfer out for each precinct, and then as a transfer in for precinct 5.
So let me
So it's a wash.
Let me understand, precinct 2, the 2020 budget was 1.7, the 21 budget is 1.3, but in order to get back to the,
No, that's not my
No.
budget. That's the revenue.
1.8, he's saying. Barry.
I can find what
think
frickin'
that's the
page
amount of
it's
money
on.
Willie transferring in, isn't it?
oh, that's receipts, I'm sorry, you're right, it's 1.8. Okay, your 2020 is 1.7, and your 21 is 1.8.
Oh, here it is, it's on page 5.
So it's nearly exactly $100,000 more than it was a year ago.
Yeah, and that's why I'm
But your
saying you need to
2000,
take that.
but your 2019 actual was 1.2. So if you went back to 1.3 or so, that's $500,000 savings. But you probably got debt that you didn't have in 2019.
Plus you have to remember you've got your grant funds coming in that'll help as well. Hopefully.
And Lee does have $250,000 in debt fund service for equipment purchases.
I talked
Oh,
about it
100.
this morning about that water truck, and I need to talk to Curtis. I've got some funds, that unexpended funds, that I want to put a down payment on that water truck. But I want to add the remainder of that capital improvement item that's not reflected in the budget yet. Found a used water truck. I
I
was
saw
going to reach
pictures
out
of it, I never saw a price for it.
89.
89,000.
Yeah, we're talking about
What year?
It's 12 miles. Brand new aluminum water tank. I was gonna retake mine out of my surplus funds, so mine's 92, so, you know, 20 years. So I think they're gonna bring it to me to look at this week, and if it's what I think it is, and I think it's a good deal.
What's yours worth, the one you got now?
I don't know.
It's a
You would keep
92
it though, right?
International.
You gonna keep yours?
Why would I? The tank is rotten.
Well, I thought you said you were gonna retank yours out of
I'm
surplus,
going to retake mine out of surplus.
but instead,
Instead, I
get
want,
this.
instead of spending 30,000 to retake mine,
got it,
I'll spend 90,000 to
get a
buy
20-year tail truck.
20-year
Yeah.
new truck.
Yeah,
And we're talking this year?
Yeah, I was going to take my reserve that we talked about Friday, where I unexpended in sealing oil and other asphalt, pay half down, and then pay the remainder out of capital next year. I'll have to change my budget a little bit.
Okay, yeah, but what we could do is to pay the balance of that from general fund contingency. So you get that done and then you are transfer
Transfer.
back into general.
Okay. I don't care how we do it, whatever's
I
easy
make
for
it
us.
clean that way.
Okay. But it looks like a good deal. Get us a good, reliable water truck instead of.
Where's the spray bar? I saw no spray bar, there's two ends, they're turned up, but where does the water?
Isn't that underneath it in that bumper, isn't it?
Underneath, that's the way it looks like.
That's what I,
And there should be
Underneath
one
the
out
whole
in front.
Yeah.
Should be one on the front too,
There's
a nozzle
there's a
deal.
nozzle in front, and then there's the 90-foot hose or whatever it is, 30-foot hose. They're gonna bring it to me, and we'll
Yeah,
look it
because
over.
I was thinking, okay, maybe it's up front, but you don't want to spray water and water something down and drive
Drive
through
over
it.
it, no. I think it's underneath the back bumper.
Okay, I just couldn't,
but you can, it does have front nozzles on it too,
It does
don't
have
come
some
off.
nozzles in it.
that's
That
good
way
on
you-
the truck.
Well, Lee, why is your camp expense 5 times higher than the other precincts?
Where do you see that?
It just, and I'm not picking on you, it
Where is
just
it?
jumped out at me. Well, it's over on page 20, because I was looking at where some of this money's going, under the summary, and, okay, camp expense precinct 1, 11,600, camp expense of precinct 2, 50,000, camp expense on precinct 3, 4,200.
Is that a building project left in here?
That just jumped out at me. That's what, I kind of look for irregularities, something that just doesn't. And I thought there might be a logical explanation for that, but I couldn't figure out what it.
Precinct 1 has no camp expense. Or no,
You're paying precinct.
what is?
No, it does
Yeah, it
have
does, 11,600.
11,006.
11,600.
Oh, supplies and operations? Is that what you're looking at?
Camp,
No, camp expense.
11,600, and yours is
To the
50.
left-hand column, where it says camp, page
Well,
20.
the major thing is, some precincts have the utilities in the operations budget, and some in the
Right,
camp budget.
that's what we talked about, Barry, remember a couple of months
No
ago, that
idea.
all of us are turning it in under different scenarios. We have a lot of option to write those expenses in different places.
And
There's
that's,
a lot of repetitive lines.
Yeah,
between
that's
camp
one-
and operations.
that's what I've hated about that accounting
So
system.
Lee could,
Hopefully, January first, that's,
Yeah, it just, that number jumped out at me.
I see it.
I didn't understand why it was that much different.
Couldn't tell you.
Related to your barn.
we'll just look,
your yard,
but look at
anything like that,
look at
supposed to go in the
operations
camp
though, same way, Barry.
You know, any kind of repairs or
Yeah,
utilities.
Yeah, it is odd.
I always,
Your operations is 250, mine's $1 million, precinct 3, 250, precinct 4, 629. How's that happen? We got the same amount of people.
so you're looking at, you take those two numbers together, Lee, that's roughly 700,000 in operations, and, 30 or 40,000 in, boy, that's a huge difference.
Look at the capital expenditure line though.
It's way low.
Yours is 250, mine's 40, 250 for precinct 3,
Yeah, but
precinct
Lee, look
400.
at your transfers out for, debt service.
debt service. You got 144,000 budgeted for next year for refinancing payments. And then,
Transfer out.
But that operations line won't pick that up, will it?
no, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't. There's just a huge difference in those two lines, and I wondered, that really jumped out at me when I saw that there was something wrong.
We're just not calculating things the same way.
Probably not, but
We have the same amount of people you do. We try to do the same amount of roads. But I do what?
You had 50,000 in for part-time help at one time.
Yeah, when we were out there really getting after it. Yes, that's right.
And
What's your head count, Lee?
6.
6 guys?
So is yours, too.
I'm a bit concerned with your amount that you budgeted in, camp expense for next year. Cause you budgeted, Jeff, you spent 23,000 already this year.
But
but that was improvements, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, some of that was, yeah, cause I think you did some construction on your
Yeah.
barn and
is that
some
where we fix them?
Where you cut all that wire, you can burn the insulation off and turn it, catch it
See,
in.
we only got four. That's
It was, wiring those, yeah, we did wire that.
$60,000.
Yeah, you had wiring.
Yeah,
you
that's,
had that-
mine's $1,000,000 compared to your
That number
240.
still
Yeah.
look right.
Good stuff, but
And it can't be, what am I doing different?
I don't know. That was
That
why I
was
questioned that.
11.5.
I wonder if that got carried over when you redid your barn and that stuff, if that expense got it,
Still, I would think it would work.
because that was year before.
That should have been a capital expense.
Yeah,
Afford to.
well, only if you had thought in like 18 and budgeted it that way in 19, that's it. But you, I think, I can't remember whether we transferred funds to do those, redo those sheds or not. I don't remember how that happened.
Yeah, where would that
Well,
come?
something is awry here in our worksheets or in our computer software. And like you say, January 1 will be munis and we'll have an opportunity to get things.
Well, but it still doesn't mean between here and there, you shouldn't look at your monthly.
Yeah, we still like to know what's going on.
Well, whenever we do our PAFs, it doesn't always tell us where they're gonna,
No, it doesn't. That's why you need to look at the monthly, because it's after the dust is settled, then they expense that and you can see where that went.
The PAF shows where it's being expensed.
Yeah.
It does.
sometimes it'll have written in there, I got one the other day on my sealing oil that it said the sealing oil bill was for $8,000. But it showed, on top line, it said available in that line, $293,000. And I went, I wish.
That's that was probably for the entire major category.
Yeah, that was for the whole
All of your
deal.
supplies,
Before you started.
probably not just that one line. I'm just guessing, that's
Yeah.
what it sounds like.
Well, that was just a couple of days ago that I got that PAF, and $293,000 left. And if we're through chip sealing for the year, except for Muller that I've got to dig out and replace, then that ought to have pretty good fallout.
Well, but that was at the beginning of the year. That may not be a reduction as you go along.
No, Willie, it said available on this line
Okay, but-
and this date. So that doesn't mean January 1.
Okay, but it doesn't mean you have that much money. I'm just telling you that now, because you've already done too much work to have that much.
He says I have $90-something thousand in fog sealing that I haven't touched.
Your budget is fine. It's your fund equity that's the problem. I mean, you've got plenty of budget, but
Well, I mean, that's what we work off of. When we go to spend money, is it in the budget? Yes, it's in the approved budget. Well, we assume that our auditor would make sure that our budget is covered financially. There's money there to back up our budget.
They don't know that until after you have spent the money. I mean,
But they have a heads up that it's coming.
Well, so.
They need to have a plan to cover our expenditures if it's
Okay,
approved.
This year, they're not getting those allocations on fines and fees because that obviously correct. So it's pure guesstimate right now. So, but when you get the Munis system, hopefully you will be able to look at the revenue that you're getting each month and know how good you are to what you budgeted. That's,
Right.
revenue that's really predictable is property taxes and not for next year.
Yeah.
Oh, I see,
Just
that's
hit
right. We
Curtis
don't,
and fill that. Hit Curtis and.
Oh, okay.
because we don't have any way of knowing how those fines and fees are coming in, do we? During the year. Not very good right now.
Is your tooth hurt?
The tooth?
What are you saying?
Well, we know that we don't have them in
Yeah.
we hadn't made them to the
Oh, they're
bank.
cramping. Oh, you need to drink water. You're dehydrated.
Spend them
I
yet.
know, I do. My legs cramp too.
I don't
Do you
know,
have
I'll
a
be curious to see
banana?
how this week
Eat a
works
banana.
out with Pat.
Patty.
Helps you.
And I
Yeah.
think Lori's
I just bought them.
closer than that. Okay. Let's go back to where, we will be at page 4. Nancy, I struggled last night. I had my copy, I had 2 new copies, but different. So I had 3 things scattered out, turning page by page, trying to get them straight last night. I'm just thinking, I should have date time when you laid it down.
Willie, what is the Tyler Software Fund of $850,000 on this page 4? Is that what operating is gonna cost us for the year?
I think the Odyssey is 886,000 a year.
886?
Yeah.
For what we'll pay them, not unless that's still got charges left on installation that we haven't paid.
I think that's just
But it's like,
maintenance and
it's a little less than
licenses.
50,000 a month.
I thought it was too, that's what I was going, I just took 60 times 12, you know, and I thought it was less than 60. I knew for sure we'd paid them for SAAS and.
Yeah.
New jail fund, should we not have that fully expended by 21?
Well, that's one of the things we needed to kind of talk about. Willie had put down 15 million, but it's going to be more than that. And Bob and Deb don't agree on what's left in the fund.
Yeah.
And so, didn't talk to you, I just had him plug in 25 million
Okay.
for expenditures from 1 January through March something. We haven't done, but I tried to figure out.
They're not in agreement as to what's left in the fund?
Well,
They have a
no,
different balance.
that's what Bob's saying, there's a that's, and I'm,
Exactly.
but I couldn't tell from your sheet here what was left for sure. I didn't read it right. I couldn't come up with it. This is the one you gave me a week or so ago.
Yeah. That's working off Bob's numbers, so.
Well, he's listed all the checks. I'm gonna say there's always a moment in time they're gonna be different, but not
Yeah.
10 million.
Is that how much it's off?
10 million.
10 million?
Deb never gave me a firm, but she didn't agree with Bob's figure, and of course, I didn't remember it exactly.
Yeah, because that's a big discrepancy.
But we've got to allow that there's 2.5 million in finishing out that pod. There's the equipment that will be bought. Just kind of take a closer look, but,
Well, that's what that sheet should spell out.
okay, well, I don't understand.
Okay.
This is the fairest answer I can give you to that. Some of it I understand, but collectively, I can't go look at it and say, what's left in that account?
Well, you have to add in the interest income earned on those funds. Then on the expenditures, they've typically been billing between 2 and 3 million something a month. And part of that has gone to residual. So it's residual, and I don't know, it's not paid, it's earned but not paid out, the residual.
The 2.5 million he earned on the account, the interest income, because it's not making any money now at 0.5%.
On that note, then, that aside, how does the 561 budget differ year over year? The increase or decrease?
All right. How does it, well,
Is it less money spent than,
it's usually more because the operating expenses typically go up, like the food typically goes up, and the medical cost, get that in. So probably for the last 2 or 3 years, maybe 1 or 2% increase in actual expenditures.
Well, but the other thing we've got to give credit, don't listen to the sheriff. Give credit to the sheriff and Will for the negotiations they've done on that U.S. Marshal contract. That's kind of sleeping or bacon right now. And if the new jail proves out like we think, and we can keep more of them at the new rate, then,
And what is the new rate? Was it 75?
Currently it's 57.
But that's separate and apart from renting the old jail out,
yeah.
what you're talking about.
Well, no, I'm talking about, they wanted a contract with us, I think, said they could have up to 136 spots.
125, I think.
125, 200.
Okay, I exaggerated.
125, but if we, once we get out there and we see what our electricity and all our bills are, we can ask for an increase on their payment to us. And a lot of the jails are getting $75 per inmate per day. Right now, we're getting $57 per day based on our expenditures. So with that increase of 125 inmates, because right now we're housing about 40 to 45 on a daily basis, which is still bringing in about $80,000 a month.
Yeah.
And so if we go to the 125 inmates at a higher rate, we could be talking about several $1 million a year coming in.
But what of our cost, Will? You're just showing revenue.
Sure.
It cost us, they said $60-something a day to house our own inmates.
No, well, it's less than that to house them. They average at 57 is what they're saying that they're paying us to house their inmates. Housing our inmates is less than that. It's on that daily, on that bi-weekly deal, there's kind of a deal, I believe, for what we pay.
It's on the payroll thing.
It's on a payroll deal, it's like $24 or so is what it averages, what it costs to house an inmate. It just depends on what's overtime and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And how many inmates we have, so that is fluid. So we are making about $30 or $35 a day
Good.
off each inmate.
But that's in that doesn't count overhead costs, that doesn't,
Yeah, there is some cost in that too, but
yeah.
regardless if we had 0 marshal inmates or 125 marshal inmates, the biggest difference is how much food we're feeding them and a few other things. Otherwise, we're still paying the same electricity bill, we're still paying the same water bill and all that stuff. So if we do house 125 federal inmates, we're way ahead of the game.
So would we man that?
Go ahead.
No, you're talking about in the new jail, not in Sprague, in the new jail.
Okay.
The Sprague Annex is totally separate. That was with INS, Immigration.
Okay.
They're looking, they want,
This is these
Federal.
Is that still on the table, boss?
it hasn't gone away. They haven't called and said, hey, we don't want it.
The marshal plan is the marshal inmates waiting to go to trial, federal
Okay.
courts.
But they're in the new jail, they're not in the annex.
Well, right now they're at the annex and upstairs.
No, I'm talking about in the new jail.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're gonna go to the new jail.
I was just thinking about,
The INS deal.
yeah, and I was thinking, are we gonna man that? Because we're already short.
No, there's no way we can man that.
Yeah. Yeah,
They can privatize it with their own people or whatever.
yeah, exactly.
You know, when we hit that agreement, we need to have some kind of thing in there, they can't hire our people away from it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No competition call.
If they've ever even thought about living in Wichita County, you can't hire on over there.
Well, Willie, if you combine 560 and 561, what's the increase year over year? Or is it a decrease?
I don't know. Price of institutional toilet paper always pushes it up, so.
You usually have fallout, so, you know,
Well, it's gonna be an increase just
I'd
because
have
of healthcare
I'd
costs.
have to figure it out, but there's a difference between the budget and the actual.
If we had a 9% increase on our healthcare costs, that right there would make it cost more.
That's a
Well-
major factor in
Yeah.
What's
Personnel
typical
cost.
fallout? What is typical fallout on?
Well, you reported to us, one year was a couple 100,000 or a little more than that.
Last year, 561 was 700,000 we gave back. And I think 560 gave back about 400,000.
212, actually. Yeah.
12,000.
So right at $1 million.
There was budget money we had, you always had. Just don't
Yeah,
call it.
I mean, it's back to that deal, you budget
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
top, so if you call on it, you got it, but we don't tax for that. So it's back to what we said, it's kind of like in the precincts. If you didn't have the revenue, you haven't saved anything, you just didn't spend your savings on it.
We get $500,000 of that back.
And
$4 million.
We'll give it to you in, what they used to pay in script, was that what the counties used to pay?
But I mean, if he, in actuality though, what he could do, if he reduced the budget by $500,000, and which is historically what he'll do, he would have $500,000 he could stay within, to free up, right?
But if he did that, Jeff, you'd have no wiggle room. If something come up, and, you know, I mean,
Well,
you
is
don't
his
know how many
overtime
inmates.
back in there now? Is his overtime in there?
Overtime's there, but what we often do, you use up salary first, the budgeted salary, and so there's, when you say, wow, the overtime's left over here, it's because we used the salary, unexpended salary first, before you went into the overtime amounts. I think it's the way that's different. Because we don't budget several $100,000 in the overtime. We budget more than we used to, but
I would not feel comfortable cutting his budget by any.
Well, just what I mean is, you know, what we basically told everybody is if they stayed within their budgets, we'd let them maneuver like John did.
well, stay within their personnel budget. They can't go over,
Yeah, it is just personnel budget.
yeah.
It's not the whole budget.
And last year, of course, we had, you know, our personnel does this,
Yeah.
so a lot of times we have a lot of overtime, sometimes we don't have overtime, but you're right, the salaries came over to pay the overtime, and then what sometimes we had, like last year, I think my biggest surplus was the health, which was nearly $300,000, because we were minus that many people
Yeah.
most of the time. So, I know on my salary budget line, I believe Curtis gave back nearly $500,000, and then the $200,000 was in my operating, and then the $560 gave back, 200, whatever you said, 262.
212,000.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, 561 does have a lot of fluid when it comes to the salary side, and that's how we have.
And you never know. I mean, you can't guess.
You know, this week we're back down to.
Well,
about
I mean, I
short,
guess my
short.
point was, if he's got the float in his budget, why couldn't he add the security people? If he has that much float in his budget.
Because you're betting on the town.
Well, it's a pretty safe bet, it looks like to me. I mean, we've been shorting $1 million a year.
Okay, but right now, we don't know next year. I'm just saying, I don't think I want to have a committed added expense if we can avoid it. And I think, until we see how this year goes, I wouldn't have any more obligated than I have to.
Well, I just didn't want to get us in a bind with the,
Well, there's plenty of resources, I think. It may be doing business for a year different until we see how this all levels out. I don't think we know any of it, for sure. We don't know whether we're gonna save on personnel with one jail operation, or we're gonna have to add. And we've had different feelings from, you know, the jail commission.
We should know that.
Well, but you haven't operated. We can be within one or two, but it's, you know.
Right.
It's the breaking up with the 48-man, they've given us a waiver, there's a good job done on selling that, on that 60-man pod. So, but I think we need a few months of experience to judge all that, utilities, operations.
Well, I'm just talking about manpower, you know, where you're gonna have this many jailers per shift, the way you got it set up out there. I mean, didn't we send something to the State Jail Commission and get it approved?
You know, their recommendations don't, it's 134 for that, you know, you got the factor, the relief factor in there. And with, currently we run 110, and then if we had the 910 in 409 full all the time, we run closer to 120.
They recommend 130?
134.
That's because of schools, vacations.
Yeah, you got all that stuff, and of course, it depends how full the jail stays. If the jail doesn't require us to only have 10 pods and not 14 pods open,
You're good to go.
personnel that we shift to other places.
did we see any savings from the COVID deal, with having everybody home for a month or whatever? I mean, there was a lot less traffic on the
Well,
road.
his population was way down in the jail, you know,
For
for,
we, I mean,
Not anymore.
yeah.
Is
well,
it
yeah,
back
I
up now,
understand.
Will?
I mean,
didn't slow down at all, actually.
really, I just wondered, I mean, I just thought maybe it was
but I guess,
what's going on.
I guess
We
my-
didn't have any events going on or any,
Everybody staying home beating up each other because that's
well, that's
something
true.
else is.
I forgot about that.
Y'all had a lot of family
Oh,
violence?
yeah, that's,
Really?
yeah.
I mean, I don't mean just like slapping somebody, I'm talking choking,
I'd say 3 or 4 a day
continual
comes
family
down
violence,
to
choking, yeah, felony, something like that.
But you know, like in our precincts, we never missed a beat. I mean, we just
That's crazy.
kept right on
it
going.
was really smooth, I thought.
Yeah. Actually, I think less traffic out on the roads made it a little easier to do some of that stuff. And
But on my point with the sheriff's budget is, why wouldn't we put that as a contingency to act towards if we get,
We could put them in there and do that or reason. You know, I'm not saying it's not, and that can be done. What I was trying to do is get square one covered.
are we obligated as Commissioners Court, like, let's say Meredith demands that we do,
We're supplying them more than they're really authorized now. The sheriff's done that. You do not have to have them for the civil cases. The law reads you have to have them, provide them for criminal. Criminal's not the problem. It's divorces and child custody.
civil work gets
that,
done.
that's, sir,
Well, he said something about contingency, you know, we've always had the 10 or the 9.
Yeah.
Can we do two courthouse and just schedule 7 on, because he knows as well as I do, me keeping 7 contingency full at any given time.
But hopefully that's gonna change. I think the facility will help some there.
well, no, we're talking about security, Barry,
Oh,
like,
Put 2 in security, leave me 7.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, leave 7 in there.
For next year, then we'll know about 2022 when we get closer to 2022.
Okay.
When we're sitting here from a year from now.
We didn't have 10 in contingency, but
see,
we moved, one of them went.
what got me, and I was talking to the judge about it, is that, Kim's over there working the annex, and whoever was supposed to be with her, somebody got called out. Well, Lisa on the 3rd floor had a IGMO show up and really start trying to cause some trouble. She calls Kim. Well, Kim can't leave her post down there because she's stuck. And, you know, instead of flying up the stairs to her, she can't move, and the other guy's carried up catching some adult probation pain in the butt. So all of a sudden, you get caught behind the 8 ball, and that, to me, that is modified heavily at 10:30 in the morning when the sheriff's now across town. And you've always said,
Okay, we're getting 3 magic numbers. 911. If you're over in the Blue Bank building, in an office there, and you had that problem, you don't have the sheriff, you don't have security, you call 911.
We're having a meeting at 1:30, looking at some equipment that may help ease some of that.
do we have, Mark, what happens if I'm on the 3rd floor and I pick up the phone and dial 911? Do they know where I'm at?
Nope, I don't know, you do.
I think they do.
Sheriff said no.
Enhanced 911, yeah.
They just-
8,100.
They,
No, not on the enhanced
It'd come back
911.
600 Scott probably, because I don't know if it's.
but it wouldn't necessarily tell you you're on the 3rd floor.
They have to physically say what room they were in.
Well, they're gonna ask first, y'all deputies available over there? That's what's happening.
I know, well, I'm sorry, that's not really an option. That shouldn't even be a question.
Should,
Not for the
right, should not be a
layperson.
question.
I'm gonna tell you like I did last night in the event with our murderer that took his ankle monitor off, took off.
Do what?
The murder suspect that we had in jail, then
Oh.
the bond was reduced by order of the appeals court out of Fort Worth, to lower it down to 300,000 instead of 50 million he had. And he ended up, he cut his ankle monitor off, took off. So we caught him, and with our dispatch dog, we had him in custody. So we're taking photographs, search department and all this is going on. And the city officer comes over there, he was sent over there to find out whether we actually had them locked up.
An hour after.
And we're talking to the dispatcher sitting across from the other dispatcher. And it's a problem. It's a continual problem.
Speaking of that, could we get our ankle monitor back from DC?
Maybe evidence.
How do you not get, I mean, we had an ankle monitor on when he left,
$350 a month.
Oh,
He cut it off.
he had his ankle monitor on. When it-
Jody Wade.
I'm talking about Jody Wade. We had his ankle monitor on in DC. How come we didn't know his ankle
There's
monitor?
some answers to that, but we'll discuss it because of security reasons
yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
I can answer that question.
Okay, we'll be doing another search, let's,
Yes.
sorry.
Anyway,
For the annex, we're looking at, because we're doing a new door entranceway, we're looking at a scan to enter system. It'll scan temperature and facial recognition and unlock the door for you. So it will help security. It won't replace security, but it will definitely help, and it'll stop the individual temperature checks.
How does facial recognition work with the mask?
It will ask you to remove the mask and
Okay.
scan, and it won't let you in unless you're wearing a mask if you so desire to set it up that way.
Remove the officer from that personal confrontation.
Yeah, from
So
that.
is that gonna be outside where they have to go through that?
Airlock. You'll get
In the airlock.
You'll get in the front door,
Okay.
and it won't open the second door until you, but we're looking at that.
Will there be an override for the officer if they?
Yes. That's all the answers I'm gonna try to get this afternoon,
I
1:30.
can just see it. I walk in over there and that machine says, oh no, you butt ugly, you ain't coming in.
They didn't go to change, I hate to tell you.
You butt ugly, we don't want you in here.
All right, let's get back on. All right, write everything on page 5. Okay, we've already been to page 9 and talked about the budget deficits there, and Lily's gonna work that.
Are you on what page, Judge?
Just a second, I'm trying to catch up. I've got 2 different places marked up.
Yeah, I'm out of order here too.
Okay, under Road and Bridge on page 5, 2021, it shows $5,376,970, but on page 4, we show $6,031,371. So,
Well, the total, Judge, when you move across the line,
oh, yes, there it is. Sorry, thank you. Yeah, too late last night.
I thought you put all this together. I thought this was your budget.
It is. I thought precinct 2 was your budget.
It is.
I know more about the whole budget than I would attest for some people knowing about their budget. But I might be wrong. All right. On page 11. Under other revenue, Willie, under the precinct budgets, we're talking about 230, 210, 230, and 210. Is that, where is that coming from? Is that license tax?
No, it's,
No, it wouldn't be license tax, we don't do that anymore.
370
Yes, sir.
miscellaneous, that's the overweight fees and the interest income. And then the big one is 200,000 is the grant fund miscellaneous, the grant fund money that.
Oh, okay, so that is, that's where, okay.
200,000, so that's 800,000, and I think your grant total is 1.2, something like that, 1.2 million.
So Lee, right there, here's your deal, your revenue. If you underspend $1.3 million, you can add fund balance. And that's the only way to do it.
Well, I doesn't get my roads done.
That's what I meant when I said, you know, at a time you come where all we're doing is maintaining insurance and salaries and buying gas. That eats up a large part of it.
I think what you've got to do is watch it real close this year. And then hopefully things will change for next year that we'll, you know, maybe have a better idea of revenue for 22, or we may not. You know, your idea, let me go back to something. I thought that's not a bad idea, what you said about putting those 2 security people in 409 with the current amount of money we have. Don't add to it, but recognize it so we can do those positions.
Well, the part that bothers me, Judge, is Robert's telling me that at least for a while, until the evidence thing lines its way out, he's not gonna be here. So he's the float guy. You know, that, they're gonna have to, even though they're able to transfer people over, transport, let's say they're not got nothing going and bring somebody, my scare is they don't know how to do anything. I mean, if you use the same one over and over, or you pull them out and get them trained, but we haven't done that. And if we had trouble and Nancy calls and somebody that don't know Nancy answers the phone, we're in trouble. Because
No,
I just,
we can't
they're not-
micromanage his department.
No, I understand that, but I've witnessed it happening a couple of times, that the person didn't know what was kind of going on, and that they're doing it because out of the clear blue, maybe Billy left because he didn't feel good. He came to work and then he left, or maybe he called in at 7:30 and said, I can't, I'm whatever. But it just seemed like we scrambled in and picked somebody to come in, and because I asked Lisa, how would you know, how does a person know who you even are making the call? And when you're calling, I don't even know how Lisa knows to call. How does she call Kim? She's got her cell phone number? Or?
I don't.
I mean, is there a station there, Mark, with a little office where those people have
There
been?
was that fishbowl.
Fishbowl.
Fishbow's got an office or a phone in it?
Yeah, they have a computer and.
In the courthouse, we call 8489 and we get security.
8489, that's,
Downstairs.
Downstairs.
does that ring behind the x-ray deal somehow?
It
Oh,
does,
Lord.
yeah.
We gonna gain some when we do away with jail visitation though?
Well,
Overtime.
no, we're gonna, but jail visitation will come back in.
Yeah,
It'll just be at the other facility.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it'll be out there. And
But it should help Barry with like where all the attorneys are having to meet with
Yeah.
people. But that's probably more of your
Like
jail.
security, you'll just have a clerk that can run visitation. They won't.
at night,
They won't need an additional security officer to screen in. They'll do the same kiosk that I was talking about for the annex, we'll do that at the new building. Scan in and take temperature and everything. Then they'll check in at the desk.
can we keep going?
okay, Mark's got a 1:30 meeting, so. I
Oh,
don't know
what time is it?
It's on, it's 1 o'clock.
One.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Okay.
My stomach realized it now.
Go get those vienes and sardines out of your desk. We'll pass them around.
Sardines and crackers.
Better be having a senior pickup.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. But see, Lee, here's what's happening.
Somebody's gonna do that.
when you look at this revenue sheet, and Barry has $1 million budget, and Mark has a $900,000 budget, you just seen what they put in their piggy bank. Me and you are budgeting too much money with no revenue work against it, and if we get close to there, there's no money for the piggy bank. It works in the opposite direction.
Well, we're running road and bridge operations that are costing more than we're taking in.
Well, I think in 22, that budget's gonna have an increase in the road and bridge tax.
Yeah.
And maybe even more so than
Which is always a,
general fund, then we have to look at that, because if the Marshall contract proves profitable, and if we were able to lease out Sprague, then that's some other revenue. Now, of course, the sheriff's gonna want a fair cut of that, and deserves some consideration in that. But what the sheriff doesn't look at is how much money overall, besides the budget in 560 and 61, you gotta add in those bond payments as to how much is going to be spent.
Yeah.
You're still propping up all your road improvements next year with grant money.
yeah, and that should help a whole bunch.
Well, the trouble is it won't last long enough. You've
It's-
got 5 years to do
It's a
it.
couple of years if you're
It's-
just.
You got 2 years of money, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, you got $230,000. That's what your allocation is for the grant money, and that's included in your 1.3 million.
So,
That's
okay, let's go
grant
to
money.
page 16.
I had a question on 16.
Okay.
Down on the 455 JT1, why is that line $47,000 more than it was in 20?
Where you at?
Down on line 455,
Okay.
JP1, that's a $47,000 increase between 20 and 21, and that number just jumped off.
Wasn't that,
We added that clerk under that
Clerk.
budget.
Yeah.
That's one person.
We
All right.
moved the justice court coordinator is under JP11.
Okay, that answered the question.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even see that.
JP2 went down 5,000. I'm just curious
Yeah.
about that.
Oh, 1-2.
Yeah, 1-2, I'm sorry, 1-2 went down,
Yeah, about 5.
but it's, okay, it's 2019. Yeah,
No, about 4,000.
yeah.
On the JP2, did we grant his request for the 13 cents an hour?
No,
You did not?
no.
well, for his reserve person,
No, if it's
No,
for
no,
his
no, justice of the peace.
justice of the peace,
JP.
his lady that works in his office, he came to us and asked if we could make her pay the same as the other outlying deals. And what that meant was 13 cents an hour, something like that, if I recall correctly, or 12 cents an hour. It wasn't a lot of money, it's just kind of his point. And
that was Rodney.
that was Rodney Burchett, Judge Burchett. I thought we had accepted that.
No, we didn't.
Because nobody's going, unless it's.
Well, how did Stacy, I didn't think we gave Stacy, that's the one he's comparing with, right?
I have no
No,
idea.
he's comparing to Kathy and Stacy. Stacy got an increase because she was doing all of the collections effort for all 4.
Okay, I thought she just got the nominal raise, and that's why Judy Baker was so mad at us, because she just got a,
We raised her up to the level of the JP3 clerk. JP2 clerk was higher because you had Becky King in that position, who had been there for a long time. I don't know any longer than Kathy Green, but
yeah.
at any rate, that's where that was, and because the revenue is higher in precinct 2.
Well, what really kind of screwed it up was they had some housekeeping monies in there on the, was it Becky? Judge?
May have been Becky.
Becky, it
Yeah.
wasn't Stacy, I know.
Yeah, no, it's on precinct 2.
Yeah.
And, the assumption was that the precinct 2 girl that he has now was doing the housekeeping, and she was not.
Oh.
There was a outside contractor coming in and doing that.
Well, down on line 464, how did we go from 68,000 in that budget in 2020 to 5,500 in 21?
464.
Bottom line. I like the trend, but I don't know how we did that. Child protective.
Yeah,
Of course.
because they didn't use their money this year for travel and all that.
Okay.
The judge sent us, just the regional district judge sent us a letter reducing it to that.
Okay.
It's
Wow,
only good for a year. It'll go back.
Yeah.
wow, that's a big cut.
I think it's a mistake.
It sure looks like one.
5,500 is.
It wasn't 68,000.
Yeah, I don't think the 68's right, but
Looking at 2020 budget.
Who is that?
Might have been 6,800.
What number are we talking
Yeah.
about?
The very last one on page.
464 on page 16.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what you would,
Yeah, it was 68.
is that Alice? Is that who that is?
It was 6,800?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
68,000.
6,800.
One too many zeros in
Yeah.
there. All right, that answers that.
Yep.
Very good.
See, I wasn't worried about it last year, so, okay. Well, that'll change that other number.
Why is the auditor's 21 budget up? Well, it's not 100,000.
Where-
Okay, well, wait a minute, let's stay on that.
I'm sorry,
We
I
haven't moved off
didn't
that
say
sheet yet.
Yeah,
Okay, the JP4 had a change of nearly $5,000.
yeah,
What's,
over 5,000.
oh, that's, okay, that's because Via Botany's salary was adjusted up. We agreed to adjust it to be level with 2 and 3. That's where that came from.
Okay.
All right, now, Barry, where'd you want to go to?
Well, in the auditor 495, that increase from 2020 to 21 is, what is that? Well, it's not 100,000.
40, it's only about 40,000. That was, the raise that they gave me.
Okay, moving right along.
And that was only half what I had recommended.
So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Dang.
I'll withdraw my question.
Yeah, he goes
I
with
think
the
you-
increase.
that's- you
I'll
built
go
that
back
in.
and adjust that, because if it stays the same, then,
It will.
so,
What's that, Willie?
I said I'll make it the same as this year's.
Except for health insurance increase.
You talking about the auditors?
Yeah. Willie projected that because they're always late getting that to us at the, we just put 5%, which is what they can order.
It's hard, it's really hard doing this when you don't have actual numbers.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like the very first page, every number we talked about on there was wrong.
That's why we're talking about, is to get, try
Well,
to get,
when are we gonna get back to where we can look at this together? This right here,
Friday.
yeah, okay.
Friday?
Maybe Friday.
Okay.
The hope is to have it ready Friday.
Okay, that'd be cool.
That'd be good.
I still haven't filed this yet, though, just so you know, because I didn't have a date.
No, we're not ready for that. I
Okay.
agree.
All right.
But, okay.
What is, 522, Electra Annex, what does that represent? 523, 524,
Well, that's the operational expense of those buildings, right? Yeah,
The maintenance.
maintenance.
Yeah, because the headline, the headers, public buildings.
What is 516?
why, what am I missing that's not coming out of my budget?
Facility.
What, this is separate and apart, you're telling me?
Yeah.
I think that covers the utilities, because you furnish office space for the tax office.
It's an
And
offset
JP.
somehow?
There's 3 offices in there, so.
So he's paying the bill,
No. It's in,
Like, I still pay electric, and I pay
522.
gas, and, you know, and I pay water. I see that all the time.
I do
So,
too.
So is there 2 meters?
no. I do have 2 electric meters, but I mean, I see the bills on them because they come on my water bill.
I would assume this Burke Annex would be the tag office, and the JP's office.
Yeah.
Which conjures up another question, why'd you cut that wire?
Yeah.
That may be why you cut the wire right there. We have discovered the answer right there.
So, because it's about, what, 1,200 a month or 1,100 a month that I'm paying, or that's coming out to fund that building.
Yeah, they don't put solar panels on that building.
I don't know what that would be.
You're on the right page.
Well, we're paying electricity out of 522.
You're paying electricity out of 522? Do I just see that bill, Curtis? Is that why I'm thinking it's mine? I'm not looking at how it's coded?
I'm not sure, but we've paid almost $4,700 out of for electricity out of 522.
Look and see if precinct 4 has paid
4,700?
electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Out of 522, if you've done
Natural
40,
gas in that building.
I do, Judge, but I see that bill, I'm always after it. The guys see Bill and them used to burn the snot out of that. We changed that program, but I do fill up, Kelly Propane fills me up.
Oh, okay.
They are
So
paying,
it's not natural gas, it's butane.
It's butane, yeah,
Propane.
propane.
they are, precinct 4 is paying, but it's like $20 a month, $25 a month.
So it's a flat rate that it's just a
Well, it's
portion
not-
assessed to me?
It's not a flat rate, but it's a small amount. You've only paid $165 total this year.
Well, I must be approving the bills and it just must be coming out of a different line. That's what's
And
happening.
then part of it could be coming out of tax and part out of JP.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
actually, I bet you they're in there and under general fund paying that and.
because I do pay attention to the water bill over there just simply because sometimes there's charges there that I don't know what the code means, and I sometimes have to call, but Curtis and them are sending me this.
I think they may be allocating the bill possibly. I'll have to look into that, but
I'd be curious about how much they're doing that, because, you know, depending on what you've got heating and cooling your shop, if anything, that would be otherwise,
just
office
call
space, you don't take much.
it looks like there's no water payment. So
Out of that
out
five,
of precinct 4.
see, and I know I see that one, so it has to all be going into 522 is what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the agreement was because you furnish office space for other offices, that the utilities are paid from there.
I see.
what's the $12,000 increase, Judge, for Constable
Janitor.
Precinct 1?
I think was paid from there also.
Okay.
I think now it's in precinct 4.
Okay.
Janitor.
Just a second.
Well, look at the total number on Constable number 1, $265,955. What is that?
Where are you at?
That's a secretary, that's a constable, that's 2 deputies.
Okay.
So,
If there's a $12,000 increase from 20 to 21 on 550, Constable number 1,
From 284 to 296.
yeah, what is that?
I don't know. Good catch.
The 12,000 you're saying, Lee?
284 to 296.
Could that be the software that he was wanting, that special program, special software?
Yeah, what is that?
well, it
No.
wouldn't be in there, it would be in 411.
Was it budget for weapons? Because I remember he mentioned weapons as well.
It should still be in,
Is it car?
We were doing the
okay,
review.
you just, yeah, he's got, there could be he did away with auto allowance and changed it to vehicle maintenance.
which cost us $12,000.
Yeah, it shouldn't be the case.
Should have been a kind of a wash.
Because rural was drawing like 10,000.
Maybe we
Absolutely.
left that, both monies in there.
Oh, this is, yeah,
Did he have a wage adjustment?
no. No. He asked for one.
Guys, if you wanna know where your money's going, look down there at 560 and 561.
Oh, yeah, saw it.
Yeah, 561 eats a sizable portion.
Yeah.
So we just have a question on 550, Nancy?
Well, Judge,
Yeah.
what pushes the sheriff's budget down 300,000?
Good question. I had question marks by that.
The way we structured the vehicle purchases.
Possibly.
Account for a lot of that.
Bond management office went up substantially.
Well, you added the one person back into it that we had out. So with salary and health insurance, that's just about in,
But as far as y'all know, all that's moving pretty smooth now, right?
no, it's not.
Oh, it's not moving
Well,
smoothly?
they're moving, the trouble is what we don't have is the bonds. We still do not have a good grasp
Oh,
on collateral versus bonds.
oh.
And God help us, we just sit there and go through every one of them and try to check it.
IHC stands for,
Indigent healthcare.
International Harvester Company.
that's what I thought, but I didn't think we put that much money into it. That's a substantial drop.
Well, Commissioner Beecham
Dropped the position.
dropped one position, but we have it in 409.
Okay.
It doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking, all right, we're talking six, you were talking about 642 though, right?
Yes,
Not 640.
Yeah.
642, indigent health care. What's that down about 500,000? 400,000?
Well,
Yeah, human services is 640, that's indigent health.
No, human services is up on 640, I'm talking about 642.
well, 640, that's actual healthcare payments.
Oh, okay.
And that's wishful thinking. That one, theoretically, that's back to one of those things. You could budget the tax for 8%. That's what we're obligated to. So if you want to inflate your taxation, you would always go for 8% of your budget is devoted to IHC, and we haven't done that.
We're gonna save some money there this year, it's like.
Well, that's kind of what Willie, I think, was hoping that that'll be that good next year. And I don't know how since people don't go because of COVID, because that's, you
It was
know,
really slow for a while, she's picking up, they've been really busy for the last couple of weeks, so.
well, don't feel like y'all have to catch up.
No. Well, they had automatically carried everybody over and weren't making them do the renewals after
Yeah.
6 months to,
But even in, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Even in 19, we had almost 1.2 million in fallout out of that. So, I mean, it's, I can see where to budget it down 500,000 would be substantiated.
Okay, 19, page 19, the road and bridge again. Y'all gonna work on that, we're gonna try to come up, because the increase there, and Willie, is that because, I just all of a sudden looked at the math and wondered, that's the CTIF money is more than 595.
What are you looking at, Judge?
Page 19.
Yeah.
Total road and bridge expense.
Oh, total expense.
Oh, 519, you mean 595, that's what just screwed me up, I'm looking for 519.
Page 19. And bottom row,
Right, increase.
11%.
This increase of 595, is that the grant money?
Well, grant money's more than that. Well, we budgeted you 210 apiece on the grant money. No, 200 apiece on the grant.
210 for
No, 4 of
me and Jeff, and 230 for,
No, on the grant money on that, back on, over there on revenue, we talked about it a while ago. It's 200,000 for each.
on the paper, 1 gets 230, 2 gets 210, 3 gets 230, and 4 gets 210 on the paper.
But
You, Mr. Gould.
Probably the difference is in.
Well, I want numbers to be right.
Because you don't, 2 and 4 don't have much of a fund balance, if any. So, one,
So that's not all grant money.
no,
Okay.
it's the overweight charges, the interest and
I see.
miscellaneous stuff. The say, if you settle anything. say-
Well, you gave $20,000 to 1 and 3 more than you did to 2 and 4, so I don't,
Well, interest on fund balance, those bigger fund balances.
okay.
But I still think, Lee, you should cut that budget back to, Curtis, like what, do we know what Lee spent in 2019?
Yeah, actual is
744.
1,72,000.
Yeah, total expenses, that's right.
Now, you watching, you look and see what I spent, what have I spent so far in
See, last-
2020?
But what was you budgeted for in 19, Lee?
I don't remember.
1/8 is what I thought you said.
No, 19, we're talking about 19.
20 was 1.7, but you probably weren't over that 19. Maybe you were close. I was just thinking.
What have I spent so far this year?
973,000 so far.
So you got
Bills
4
coming
months
in.
of payroll and utilities.
Well,
And
and bills that haven't come in yet, we still doing Molly Road.
Yeah, well, what you need to do is charge the other precincts to use your guys the rest of the year.
Shh. I'm not gonna quit working. Got so much crap to do in mine, it ain't funny.
Well, that's one of the things that we talked about back to that oil bill with chip sealing, was I told Jerry, I said, we can't go borrow off of all these other lines because we've got another half a year and we've got projects we're gonna have to maintain on into the end of the year, and if we go borrow everything out of those other budget lines, we won't have any more culvert money. We got some culvert projects we need to do. You know, we don't have any patching money, and I said, we gotta maintain some funds to utilize our people for the next 4 months. You know, you don't wanna just go to the house and lock the gate. So, that's a consideration.
We got too much work to do that for our brother. We can't do the work, we can't do the work that's on our plate right now. So what are you worried about going to the house and locking the gate?
Well, we can't, because we don't have the money to pay them. It's kinda like the farming business. I've got more work to do for the next 2 years than I can even say grace over it. I'm not gonna do it. I don't have the money to do it. It won't make any money to go do it. It's the same thing, basically.
What do you gotta do whenever your constituents are calling every day about, when are you gonna mow these ditches? When are you gonna,
Well,
well,
they
I
are.
don't have any money to mow them ditches,
And
I'm
they
not gonna
are.
mow them till next year.
And they are, and that's why we didn't go put out those other 2 or 3 tanker loads of oil, because we know we gotta run those mowers, and we gotta put in
But you
some
budget
culverts.
running those mowers already, right?
Yeah, but still,
And you budget your oil.
I do.
So did you miss your oil budget?
Well, I guess,
That's what I'm asking though, see,
yeah.
usually you have more in your budget for oil than you spend.
Not a lot.
I do.
No.
Typically, a couple of 10, 20,000 maybe. But that's just 2 tankers.
But you also had to transfer money out of that this year, didn't you, for that pickup that
I did.
you, yeah, so.
Let it come out of my seasonal.
And for your temporary, yeah, but you still have project left there, but
Right.
Mark, see if you can come up with, Willie budgeted 15 million, we were into the law enforcement center. I think we're gonna be more than that. And yet when I heard, if you think about, we might pay 3 million a month to Yates, well, let's say January, February, March. So that's only 9 million plus the things that we have to purchase at owner's expense.
Yeah. Well, I'll see if Linda's back in town, and we'll sit down and go back over the spreadsheet again with Bob. And make sure we're right, tracking exactly where it shows. So.
Hello?
Oh, Donna?
Yep.
Oh, can you give us a few more minutes? We're still in court.
Yes.
Okay, I'll get back on the call bridge in a few minutes. That's my 1:30.
Yeah. You can hang on. Talk to me.
You can listen if you want to, Donna.
We'll quit talking about you though.
If it's good things, I need to hear it. If it's bad things, I don't.
How many people say good things?
You know this group.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of the devil, you walk in, right? Your ears burning? We were just discussing going back over the LEC budget expenditures and everything. I know we've just done the spreadsheet, but there's a little discrepancy, I guess, between what the auditor thinks we spend and what the thinks we spent, so we need to.
The real deal is, in the last hour or so, we figured out we're out of money and we're closing the doors.
Yeah, Donald Long's got an extra bed space in her place now.
On page 22, it says other funds supported by statutory fees and transfers, and up underneath it, it has some different categories. And one of them is personnel, salaries and benefits, and it looks like we're having a $8,211 increase in that, and I thought we said no increases.
I'm sorry, Lee, which page?
22.
22, health insurance,
Okay.
probably.
This is salaries and benefits, 2.1%. Supplies and operations, up 24.8%. Capital expenses, up 182.6%.
What is that? Willie, do you have an idea on that?
Where you're at, Lee.
Page 22.
Look at the number, it's 10,000.
Oh, yeah, that's easy to get 182% out of that.
It's not a big number.
It's not a big number at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but what's it for? 'Cause
We,
go back to your last sheet, you got 2 sheets of the capital expenditures.
Capital expenditures, the general fund, I've got 1.75 million. And capital expenditures, which is
Really?
what we need
Oh, please.
right now.
Just had an opportunity.
That's over budgeted some. I guess the major one's gonna be in information technology, and the sheriff has about 350 for vehicles, 350,000 plus 26,000 for cameras.
Are those body cameras for personnel or for vehicles?
I think it's
Maybe
vehicles.
somebody
We have to look at that for next year. I mean, how many new vehicles a year could we have on
took one
finance?
position away.
Well,
and laid it
that's,
out. But it says other funds
you know,
supported
whether,
by transfers.
Yeah, this is like,
whether the court wants to allow, since they're getting 13 vehicles.
Why not?
yeah.
Willie finally got to us, boss. There's one person in the law library. Finally got to us.
Yeah.
I cut that back some.
$1,250,000, yeah. Okay. And well worth it.
And then, of course, Labor Going has got the repeaters and the radios in.
Yes.
But there's a chance we may do all that.
Some of it may be bought this year.
Yeah, and Lori's equipment that's up there.
I've got all the phones on.
Yeah, and
Okay, so on the permanent improvement fund, we're gonna add $4 million to it this
No,
year with revenue.
No,
No.
we're only adding $1 million.
$1 million of revenue. It already had the other money in it.
Okay, yeah.
And in the way of those projects, the elevators in this building,
What does it say, 2019 actual? Permanent improvement fund?
you know,
We're gonna add $1 million to it, that should be 5.
those come out for. It's only supposed to be a total of that.
In 2019, this is the actual balance of the permanent improvement.
Hey, I
fund.
got a deal with y'all.
Okay, we don't want to use all of it. There's gonna keep
Last
some in
Friday,
reserve.
we seen a
But
bill.
we're adding $1 million to
for
it
a
through taxation.
AT&T
So should this be
landline.
5? But we'll have a $5 million balance?
No. It's for,
Just one?
okay,
Do I need to move my meeting into a different?
no, we'll get out of your way here in just a second. Because I kind of want to know, we need to come up with that figure on what will be likely to expend the rest of this year, and what are we going to need for the first 3 months of next year.
All right, what do you, pinpoint the figure that you're looking for?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you two to come up with, because I didn't think 15 million was enough. And there's a discrepancy.
LEC, what will our remainder payment be on January 1?
Okay. Now,
I
let me,
don't know, I'll don't have that on top of my head, so I'll work on it.
let me finish the other part of that. When we were talking about the 4 million in permanent improvement, that's the 2 elevators in this building. That's the elevator in the annex. And then the redoing of the old sheriff's department area. And then the redoing of Patty's office to make that the jury assembly room. Does that take care of that's in those projects? We think that 4 million will cover that?
We'll talk to it. We'll talk to it and see.
Say, I know we had included the first bill, but I don't know if we included.
Well, some of it's gonna get done this year, hopefully. And Lee, that money that's that balance, that's gonna use up part of that, so you won't have as much in that fund at the end of this year.
One of the things I was thinking about the other day, what are our startup costs out there that we're not thinking about?
We've got a lot of that in the budget.
It's not in there.
All right. We've got this other meeting. Guys, that's probably one of the best budget sessions we've had. Y'all ask good questions. I appreciate your time on the weekend.
We did actually look at it, Judge. We actually went through it.
That's why the clerk's office is closed to appointment only for the next 14 days.